diagnosis of COPD should be considered in any patient who has dyspnea, chronic cough, or sputum production, and has a history of exposure to the risk factors. Okay, now the risk factors are the dyspnea. It would be progressive and it worsens over time. The chronic cough, it may be intermittent and it may be unproductive. The chronic sputum production, any pattern of chronic sputum production may indicate COPD. A history of exposure to the risk factors, such as the tobacco smoke, the smoke from home cooking or heating fuels, and the occupational dust and chemical exposure, and the family history of the COPD. Spirometry is required to make a clinical diagnosis of COPD, and the presence of the post-bronchodilator of the FEV1%. It needs to be less than 0.7 or 70%. That confirms the presence of persistent airflow limitation and thus of COPD. All healthcare workers who care for COPD patients should have access to spirometry. The appendix in the gold packet, and I'll give you a copy of that. Okay. The appendix 1, it's called, the title of it is the Spirometry for Diagnosis of Airflow Limitation for COPD. It summarizes the lung function measurements that are key to making a spirometry diagnosis and details some more of the factors that are needed to achieve an accurate test result. Okay? All right, now do you remember Ms. Tubbs's post-bronchodilator FEV1?
No.
No?
I don't remember. I don't know how you remember so much. It's so much information and it's just overwhelming.
Well, see, I definitely understand. I studied long and hard when I was a student at Ball State's respiratory program, and pulmonary function testing was not my favorite topic. But once I got hired, I actually began obtaining and assessing spirometry values on a regular basis, and it was then that it really began to stuck in my brain. So you'll see what I mean one day.
Okay, I hope so.
Okay.
Thanks for being so positive and understanding. My father has spirometry tests before.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain why it's an important assessment tool for COPD patients?
Yes, spirometry is required to make the clinical diagnosis of the COPD. And it should be available to all healthcare professionals who work with COPD patients. And it's a simple test to measure the amount of air that a person can breathe out and the amount of time that it takes to do that.
How is exhaled gas measured?
It is measured with a spirometer, which is a device that is used to measure how effectively and quickly the lungs can be emptied.
Does it show exhaled volume?
Yes, and it produces a curve. It's called a volume time curve. I'll review the three main values that are assessed with COPD patients. The FVC, that stands for the forced vital capacity, and is the maximum amount of air that can be forcefully exhaled. And the FEV1, which stands for the forced expired volume in 1 second, and that is a measurement of the volume of air that is exhaled in the first second of a forced exhalation. The FEV1 FVC ratio, it is expressed as a proportion of the FEV or FVC, and it gives a clinical useful index of the airflow limitation.
That's so confusing. I still don't understand how this relates to both.
Well, the ratio of the FEV1 FVC, the normal ratio is between 70 to 80% in normal adults. Values less than 70% indicate some type of airflow limitation, and that helps with the diagnosis of COPD. Okay? All right, so Ms. Tubbs' most recent post-bronchodilator assessment of the FEV1% is 65%. Now, by using evidence-based gold categories, we can classify the severity of Ms. Tubbs' airflow. Okay. So I'm going to write out that chart for you on the board.
So
and we'll
up here I have
drawn the chart that is the classifications of the severity of COPD based off of the post-bronchodilator measurement of the FEV1.
Okay.
So since it goes in mild, moderate, severe, and very severe, and in this chart you're going to look to see where the patient's values fall based off of it. It's less than or equal to the 50% less than or equal to the 80% of predicted, and so on. So since Ms. Tubbs had a 65%, that's going to be less than the 80% of predicted, but it's not as low as 50%. So she wouldn't be severe based off of that. She would be in the moderate. So she would be in the gold 2 category of moderate obstruction for her COPD. Okay?
So gold classification is a simple way to categorize how severe a COPD patient's airflow is being limited based on a post-bronchodilator FEV1 values, correct?
Right.
Okay, and gold 1 indicates the most ability to blow out air, and gold 4 is the worst classification, and it means that the patient has the least ability to blow out air?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So does every adult have the same predicted FEV1?
No, the FEV1 is influenced by the age, the gender, the height, and the ethnicity, and it's best considered as a percentage of the predicted normal value. There's a vast literature on normal values. Those appropriate for local population should be used. And those include the spirometry is needed to make a clinical diagnosis of the COPD. Together with the presence of symptoms, the spirometry helps gauge COPD severity, and that can be a guide specific for treatment steps off of this chart. A normal value for a spirometry effectively excludes the diagnosis of clinically relevant COPD. And the lower the percentage of the predicted FEV1, the worse the prognosis. Okay, so I'm going to erase this and I'm going to draw some graphs for you. Okay, so here are the graphs that I was drawing for you. Earlier I mentioned the volume time curve. That's what these are. In the spirometry, a normal curve will look like this. They will be able to exhale a larger amount of air, around 4 liters, at 1 second.
Okay.
So in that 1 second, they're able to exhale, forcefully exhale, at least 4 liters of air. And over 6 seconds, they will be able to get larger volumes out. In a mild to moderate volume time curve, they're unable to get large amounts of volume out in a short amount of time. So at their 1 second, they're only able to get about 1.8 liters out. Whereas with the new one, or the normal one, they were able to get 4 in the 1 second. So the curve for the obstructive, the mild to moderate obstructive, will look like this. It will be more spread out. It will take a longer amount of time to get their air out. And in this short amount of time with the forced exhalation, they will get smaller volumes as opposed to the larger volumes with the normal.
Okay.
Okay? All right. So the FEV1 declines over time, but usually faster than COPD than healthy subjects. So spirometry can be used to monitor disease progression, but to be reliable in the intervals between measurements, they must be taken at least in 12 months.
Okay.
Okay.
How do you perform spirometry?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Ms. Tubbs is eating breakfast, so we have time to do on our own. So I'll show you a real quick demonstration.
Does it not hurt me?
No, it won't hurt. I will talk you through each step, and then we can look at your results for practice, okay?
Okay.
All right.